Highlands Highway cut off after a freak hailstorm. More calls for police hierarchy to clamp down on undisciplined officers. And Health Department to trial a new cancer vaccine.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
Good evening to you and welcome to Thursday's news. Thanks again for joining us. We begin tonight's bulletin with a special report. Now, more than 5,000 people in 4 ward areas of Henganofi, Eastern Highlands face immediate food shortage after a hailstorm flattened food gardens and caused a landslide that has cut off traffic along the Highlands Highway. Hailstones as big as cricket balls fell through thatched roofs as the nearby river flooded its banks. The freak storm, which lasted about 2 hours, caused enough damage to cripple the Highlands economy. The Police Minister and Henganofi MP, Robert Atiafa, has since asked for national government assistance as the district allocated 250,000 kina for relief supplies. Our Lay Bureau Chief Scott Waide brings you tonight's MTV News special report.
The Highlands Highway cut-off means fuel, food and other essentials won't be getting into Goroka, Mount Hagen, Kundiawa and towns in other Highlands provinces. This landslide happened Tuesday night. It came after a hailstorm that lasted 2 hours. The hail battered homes in 4 ward areas. Food gardens that feed about 5,000 people were pelted with chunks of ice the size of cricket balls.
First, number one, we put on log and we play look all legal sizes. All legal minimum was all rice. Okay, second one, I've been put on and big play and come extra big play legal. Okay, third one, and come and big play. Now inside los la 4 logan and same kind tasol and come was third one and come. Okay, the 5 logan here and come here and mix up no, I come no, and come finish. Na pure rain and put on. Now this little ice and stop and taking me blah 2 days now. Still I'm stop yet. Suppose you go and sell coffee or lily barret or you know a house. On ask banana and peck na mister.
It's like around 2 come and call my place na come and we got a name, all the was you looking.
In 1 hour the river flooded and what was left over from the hail, the river destroyed. Matthew Hakeo spent the whole of yesterday shoveling close to half a meter of mud and sand swept in by the torrential rain. Not only have food gardens been destroyed, cash crops that pay for school fees and basic necessities have also been destroyed, leaving thousands without any immediate income. Yesterday, Henganofi MP Robert Atiafa went to the site twice to talk to people, first after getting news of the landslide and then after an emergency meeting with the Eastern Highlands Governor.
You can look him and we got big landslip here. And we long landslip and by taking plenty days long. Straight him. Then sleep now, opening highway issue. But most important issue now blow me. Also local MP na leader blow line no here. How I mean up straight him line blow me. All kisim bagrap na bagrap through. Because plenty all mountain na. All get a line blow me lo here all say walking garden long area warana. All get a now is tap ananitro wara.
Atiafa has since made a special request to the national government asking the Prime Minister to take the matter up on his behalf in the National Executive Council meeting this week for urgent funding. There are 2 main concerns. One is the immediate need for food supplies over the next 4 months until food gardens start growing again. The other is for the highway to be cleared so that supplies to other Highlands provinces can be transported. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Lay.
Opposition leader Don Pollier says the recent rise in police shootings and brutality in the country is unbecoming of a disciplinary force. Pollier called on the police hierarchy and the government to take a bold move in clamping down and disciplining rogue officers and breed a new stock of officers. He says the public cannot live in fear with the ongoing police behavior.
The opposition leader expressed disappointment over the recent shootings in Anwabada and Lay, which has caused unnecessary grief and tension in the country. Mr. Pollier said the force needs a shake-up and total commitment to regain the public's trust and confidence.
We have to train our policemen and women to manage and administer the affairs of the force with competency.
Police says the police hierarchy must consider new training and upskilling of a new force to carry PNG into the future, as security will be a topic of concern with PNG hosting major events in the Pacific.
In areas of understanding the law and enforcing it, understanding the human rights, the rights of Papua New Guinean citizens, and also what functions they play in the country.
The opposition leader also called for the setup of an independent inquiry into police brutality cases in the country, because most are left unattended with officers walking free.
Commission or somebody of some sort that if there's a police brutality, it is always referred immediately to that body, and the body looks at that and then addresses and mitigates any issues that comes about. Like for instance,
Mr. Poilier says he is prepared to work with Prime Minister Peter O'Neill and all stakeholders to shape PNG's police force. Jack Lapawe Jr., National EMTV News.
Proper police training, respect for women and a reassessment of the NCD Buai ban were some concerns raised by women groups today. The National Council of Women and the NCD Council of Women condemned the Hanawabata killings whilst urging the government to be mindful of such behaviour in light of PNG hosting future international events. These are the simple words that signify the cry of not only the grieving families at Hanawabata, but existing victims and the general public against the unacceptable pattern of police harassment and brutality. General Secretary of the National Council of Women, Lily Tua, and her colleagues condemned the killings but appreciated the government's coronial inquest into the issue.
Whatever police does, it reflects the government of the day, because it's a state police. So
many women have been arrested by the police. They've been beaten up. Their market things have been destroyed.
Our children, women of Papua New Guinea deserve to be respected.
The women also questioned the use of high-powered firearms by police, saying it was a contributing factor of fear among the public. Their concerns also included the review of the NCD Buai ban and its management under the leadership of Governor Powis Parker. They say the treatment subjecting women to physical searches is unwarranted.
What about the survival of human beings? These are the rights of Papua New Guineans. And basically women, you can see we women throughout the country, our young girls, we are unsafe in our own country.
I'm not against the ban of the Buai, but what I'm saying is we must have the facilities in place. Therefore, all these problems have encountered.
The call to review the ban is also supported by a member for Abau and Public Service Minister, Sir Pukatemu.
I still believe that the law by NCD was unconstitutional. That is yet to be contested in the court of law.
In recent times, police behaviour and enforcement have been deemed ambiguous to say the least and far from appropriate at best. These women have called for respect and a complete halt of harassment and brutality by police. Yesterday, a coronial inquest was announced by the government's Chief Secretary, Sir Manasupe Zurinuo, to establish findings of the Hanawabata killings and prosecute the culprits responsible. On the same note, more prominent public servants and professionals are coming forward to express their concerns on the misuse of firearms by police, not only in Port Moresby but throughout the country. This afternoon, members of the Mouse Golf Club met with families of the two deceased at Hanawabata village and presented food items and 6,000 kina to show their sorrow. One of the victims is the grandson of Daddy Toka Sr., a member of the Mouse Golf Club.
While expressing their sorrow, members of the Mousegrass Club called on the government to look at the Hanawabata killings seriously. They said while guns are part of the police uniform, over the years, police have misused its purpose.
You've got a problem in this country. Police have got a command and control problem. You've got a real management problem in this country. If you need some other policemen to come here and do something about it, bring someone in so that they can do a real policing job. Don't worry about sovereignty, you're not going to need it.
Much emphasis was made on the change in the police ministry by former police minister Barry Kimisopa in 2004, where he recommended the national government to disarm the police force. This would mean high-powered rifles like M16 will be removed from police offices and exceptions will only be made on pistols. The club and majority of the Hanwabada villages are now calling on the government to implement the 2004 recommendation, which they say has gone unnoticed till now.
Which I think government must look back along all this law. One something I mean bring him up along and only look now, only must tram now. Improve him more, impose him this law where very been put him long.
Following this afternoon's meeting, the Motu Koita Way Forward Committee will be presenting their petition to the Prime Minister at the Parliament House tomorrow. Chairman of the committee, Ako Kari, when accepting the food items and money presented to them, thanked the club and said, while the families of the deceased have made the stand to forgive the shooters, the announced independent coronial inquiry must continue so justice will prevail.
We will take it straight by truckloads and in orderly manner present it to our Prime Minister.
The petition, which is currently being signed by villagers, is expected to reach 5,000 signatures tomorrow. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
At the helm of the fuel crisis in Port Moresby, informal fuel distributors in the city are earning fast money through the sale of 2 and 5 litre containers. Motorists in the city have been experiencing shortage of fuel following the roadblock to the fuel depot by Motu Koita Buins. The roadblock is now cleared, but the distribution of fuel from the depot to service stations is slow, hence the informal sector is cashing in. And in news ahead, the health department trials out a vaccine that prevents cervical cancer, and leading doctors say our abortion law is outdated. Those stories and more when we come back. Stay with us. Good to have you back with the news. The National Department of Health will trial the distribution of a vaccine to prevent cervical cancer. Called the human papillomavirus vaccine, it will be trialed first in NCD and Morobe this year. The nationwide program will be developed to vaccinate young girls in order to reduce the risks of developing cervical cancer later on in life. The program will target girls between the ages of 9 and 13 years.
Papua New Guinea is still struggling to deal with cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is one of the leading causes of death among women in PNG.
Cancer of the cervix is the commonest women cancer in PNG.
It's over 1,000 a year, 1,000 new cervical cancers a year, probably closer to 2,000 because...
Early detection of this cancer is still the best form of treatment because an operation can be done to help patients. However, records show that for various reasons, PNG women have sought treatment when they are already in the late stages of this cancer. And treatment at this stage means radiotherapy and/or chemotherapy. The only cancer unit specialized in this form of treatment in PNG is based at the Engau Memorial Hospital in Lae. It serves the entire population of Papua New Guinea.
Well, radiotherapy unit Lae is a good one, but it hasn't been well utilized.
While the Department of Health is working to build the capacity of the cancer unit, they are also working on another strategy to reduce the number of women from contracting cervical cancer.
In partnership with our partners, going to trial the vaccine, human papilloma vaccine, which will be given to school-aged children, our bigger children, grade 6, 5, 6, 7, that kind of age group.
Currently, there are 2 brands of HPV vaccines available on the international market. They are Gardasil and Severix. Research that Dr. Mola has been involved in has shown that the 2 commercial HPV vaccines will be able to reduce the type of cervical cancer we have in PNG. These vaccinations have been used in other countries with good results.
In countries that have introduced this vaccine, only paini molsem now all young plamberi, only no kisim virus infection because only got immunity pinis long vaccine, and the cancer of the cervix just goes to almost zero.
At the moment, the HPV vaccines are very expensive because of international patent laws. But there is good news for this vaccination program.
It's free, so while it's free, please Please go for it.
The Department of Health will be in touch with schools to discuss this program and encourage parents to allow their children to be vaccinated.
Suppose Papa Mama picking do you know like him saying come up one time cancer law behind time. Then please try must stop right law and send this vaccination.
Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
The law making abortion illegal in Papua New Guinea is outdated. Maternal health expert Dr. Lahui Keita told NTV News that a lot of women, especially young women, are dying from abortion-related causes because they are not able to access medical help. Doctors specializing in caring for pregnant women and women's sexual reproductive health have been proposing to the government to have this law reviewed.
Papua New Guinea is not alone in having a law that restricts the abortion of an unborn child. The Criminal Code of PNG states, "A person who unlawfully administers any means to a woman with intent to procure her miscarriage is subject to up to 14 years imprisonment. A woman who undertakes the same activity or consents to it is subject to up to 7 years imprisonment." However, reports have shown that there is widespread practice of abortions throughout the country.
30% of the maternal deaths were in young women. Young women who were trying to terminate an unplanned pregnancy. And that's quite a large number.
Dr. Glenn Mola, a specialist in obstetrics and gynecology with decades of experience, have seen cases where attempts at abortion have gone wrong for women.
So they do things to themselves to start in miscarriage, and often because they do it when they're already more advanced pregnancy, it's quite dangerous.
Doctors Gaeta and Mola, who are both members of the PNG Society of Obstetrics and Gynecology, agree that PNG's law on abortion needs to be looked at.
As doctors, we think that we need to revisit this law and change it a little bit.
It talks about stuff that doesn't exist anymore. It was formulated in the days when operations were dangerous. Doctors' operations were actually very dangerous in the 19th century. When there was no medicine available, so it forbids giving potions and poisons and things to women to initiate a miscarriage. But these dangerous sort of things don't exist anymore. We have very safe medicine these days.
The reality in PNG is that public opinion usually outweighs medical opinion on this issue.
I personally think we should just decriminalize abortion. By that I mean we should just get rid of all the laws and leave it to society and ethics and the medical profession and its codes of ethics and the policies of the Ministry of Health to regulate the situation.
Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
The new imposed PMV and taxi fares set by the Independent Consumer and Competition Commission yesterday has been slammed by motorists and the public in Port Moresby. Bus crews and taxi drivers say new prices are not worth it compared to vehicle maintenance and cost of business.
The new prices set by ICCC has not gone down well with PMV and taxi owners in the city. Most say the transport system in the city is a priority factor in helping the huge workforce both in private and public sector. John, who has been driving for 18 years in the city, says ICCC has done its part in regulating prices, but most drivers and crews won't be implementing the new fares.
All put in, but all by still come down to 53, 43, this land, I'm getting problem yet. So stop the 1 kina, all by run up, go close to the 70, 80, and mean up, come down 90, but come down can over. Still stop 1 kina, but all not paying 1 kina now. All will come down to 43, 53.
In a statement released yesterday, ICCC Commissioner Dr. Billy Manoka says all issues surrounding PMV operations has been considered before the rates were announced. Commuters in Port Moresby will pay 90 toya and Ley 80 toya. Taxi fares will also see slight changes with a maximum flag rate of 1 kina 70 and maximum of 2 kina 30 per kilometer.
92 mi blo film mosam ambai na film Pablo Carna mi blo bosku driver tu so one kina sometimes so one kina straight time to 92 ball pay come down lo 40 30 na so one kina also pay 60 70 so am sa gora dig.
The public say the 92 rate is not worth it because bus crews and taxi drivers still charge their own rates.
So mi bakal bus gosem geru number do lakan mi blogo by 1 kina ye. Still mi blogo disab mi by 1 kina ye. So mi no sa bus crew na driver and price am still charging me by anta 1 kina so.
However, Commissioner Manoka urged all PMV and bus operators to comply with the rates or face legal action of charging excess fares. Jack Lapava Jr., National, EMTV News.
Allegations leveled against an integrated land group from Roku Village in the Central Province are claims that they are illegally owning various land area, including the Napa Napa refinery. However, the claim was rebutted today by the Ubduare Land Group. ILG Chairman Inogo Gabe says they are not illegal or a shadow ILG as claimed by the Korea ILG.
Ohobi Dudu Are ILG Chairman Inogo Gabe says they are not a pseudo ILG as claimed by Kuryu ILG Treasurer Ray Hauta yesterday. Mr. Hauta claimed the Ohobi Dudu Are ILG has been operating illegally after it was dismissed by the Central Provincial Lands Court in September last year.
Ohobi Dudu Are ILG should be nullified.
But today, members of the Hohobi Duduare group fronted up at the EMTV office with all documents dating back to 1980s. The chairman says they are registered with the Lands Department and received the ILG status in 2001.
My father was the landowner of that block there until now. And then we have our ILG in 2001, sorry for correction, 2001. We hold our ILG. After all, through this ILG, we are registered in Lands Department.
He clarified that Ohobi Dudu Are is the land block area within the Kuryu clan.
Kuryu have 2 land blocks.
It is one of the 2 land area that houses the Napa Napa refinery. He says there's nothing sinister as all court documents are clear and investors are welcome to do business on the land. She says the members of the Kuryu clan who accused them as no name in the Roku's electoral roll because they reside outside the village for decades. Meanwhile, she has appealed to businesses operating on their land area not to panic. Quintan Alomp, National EMTV News.
Westpac has entered into an agreement to sell 5 of its banking operations to Bank South Pacific for 243 million kina. Those banking operations are in Samoa, Cook Islands, the Solomon Islands, Vanuatu and Tonga. However, Westpac is looking to sharpen its focus on the more lucrative Fiji and PNG markets.
In a statement, Westpac announced it had entered into an agreement to sell the operations to the Bank of South Pacific, BSP, for 125 million Australian dollars, approximately 243 million kina. Westpac said the sale of the businesses in Samoa, Cook Islands, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu and Tonga would be completed in mid-2015, subject to regulatory approval. The bank, which will retain its operations in PNG and Fiji, said the sale would improve its return on equity in the Pacific region and would not have a material impact on its financial position. Westpac said it would work with BSP, which has its headquarters in PNG and has existing operations in Fiji and Solomon Islands, to ensure a smooth transition to the new owner for customers. The deal comes just days before Westpac Chief Executive Gail Kelly will be replaced by Brian Hetzer, who has cited the growth corridor of Asia as a strategic focus. Greg Pawson, General Manager of Westpac Pacific, said the PNG and Fiji markets support the bank's international aspirations by being closely tied to Asia, Australia and New Zealand, and the strong flows of capital, trade and migration. Westpac believes BSP is well positioned with deep local knowledge to take the great businesses Westpac has built in these countries into the future. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
On the same note, Bank South Pacific Board Chairman Costas Constantino said the bank was pleased to have this opportunity to increase its commitment to the Pacific. He said BSP was living up to its name as the Bank of South Pacific, and it will continue to have a strong presence in the region for a very long time. Constantino further added that this is a milestone transaction in the corporate development of BSP and the development of PNG as an economic force in the South Pacific. He said it was also a positive example of people of the South Pacific Island nations developing their capabilities in regional commercial and economic activities. And now we take a look at the finance news. The Kina closed 10 points lower at $0.3815 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina was fetching $0.374 US, $0.4708 Australian dollars, $0.3286 euro, and 43.52 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, coffee closed higher, gold, cocoa, and copper closed lower. Crude oil closed higher, while copper closed lower, and palm oil closed the day unchanged. And lastly, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 487 points lower, the ASX closed at 22 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 21 points higher. More local and international news coming up after the break. Stay with us. Thanks for your company and welcome back to the news. One district in Southern Highlands will, for the first time, see development in the area after 40 years. The colonial township of Nipa is finally being transformed to meet the needs of the people, especially public servants. Local MP Jeffrey Komal has also launched an eviction exercise to clear state land to build houses for these public servants.
Nipa district in the Southern Highlands province can be described as a sleeping township that has awakened from its long sleep. The site of infrastructure development, construction of public servants' houses, a new improved district treasury office, and a chamber house are all new in this colonial township. Under the leadership of local MP Jeffrey Komal, an eviction exercise was carried out in November last year prior to the start of construction works. The people were sent back to their villages in order to free up state land for development. MP Komal told them that he was serious about developing the district.
By covering the 4 or 5 major policies of our government in health, in education, in health, infrastructure, law and order, and SME. So where we are seeing, we have no time for holiday. That's why you can see us here in the project site.
Notable changes include new houses for public servants. So far, 5 have been completed, with 40 more to follow at the cost of 2 million kina. Other major developments include the 3-story district hospital complex, jointly funded by the provincial government and the district at the cost of over 50 million kina. Also in the plan for Nipa is the construction of power pylons to supply electricity to the district from the main power supply in Mandi. While the district has only seen changes recently, it has been declared one of the leading districts in Southern Highlands in terms of implementing road projects through the Joint District Planning and Budget Priorities Committee, now known as District Development Authorities. Bridget Komatep, National EMTV News.
Education services in the Nawab district of Morambe province have come a long way. People of Nawab strongly support the education service for their children despite the absence of other basic services in the district. Students from Nawab district have performed exceptionally well last year, and the district is hoping to set a benchmark in the Morambe province.
Nawai district in the Morambe province may not have all the basic services necessary for a luxury lifestyle, but education remains one priority area for the district. Their hope is on education that aimed at producing more educated people who can be able to bring back more services into the area.
The very key point to promote the education in the district is inspectors are the key master key. They are the ones that make sure that standard must improve.
Last year, Nawai High School sent a bulk of its grade 10 students to secondary schools in Leh City. Out of these students, 10 of them found a space at Sogeri National High School in Port Moresby.
In 2016, I will establish and enroll grade 8 in my new technical high school.
Nawai is mountainous and the students have to walk over rugged terrain just to get to the nearest school. The district currently has 100 elementary schools, 30 primary schools and 1 high school. Nawai is slowly seeing some positive change. About 2 weeks ago, 3 of the isolated villages in the district got a new road. The road is expected to open doors to more basic services to go into the area and, most importantly, boost the district's education system. Colin Barilai, National EMTV News, Lae.
Turning overseas now, a candlelight vigil will be held in Sydney, Australia tonight for the 2 Bali 9 members awaiting execution in Indonesia. It comes as lawyers for the 2 vow to keep fighting to save their lives.
Indonesia hasn't confirmed that the Australians are next on the list to face execution, but from the comments that have been coming out of senior members of the government over recent days, there seems no doubt that the country's intention is for the pair to be executed sooner rather than later. We heard yesterday from the country's Attorney General. He was speaking about preparations for this next round of executions. He listed off a number of countries where those prisoners would come from, and Australia was on the list. He was asked directly whether Andrew Chan and Mayuran Sukumaran would be among that next lot to face the firing squad, and his answer was hopefully. There's still no date set yet for that next round of executions, though. That's something that is likely to be decided next week, and we know the pair should get 3 days' notice before that was to happen. We do have an idea, though, of where it will take place. The Attorney General said that the most likely location is the island of Nusa Kambangan off the coast of Java, and that's the place where 6 foreigners were executed just 11 days ago. In another blow to the Australian pair, he also said that they should not be allowed to have a second judicial review of their case. That's the appeals process that their lawyers are working on so desperately at the moment. Are they still going to work towards that? They're still hopeful of overcoming the hurdles and getting that second judicial review registered. Their argument is that the first one was flawed because it didn't take into account the fact the pair had been rehabilitated while inside Kerobokan jail. The Today Show spoke to a member of their legal team earlier today.
There are widespread reports this morning that Australians are on the list in the next round of executions. There are only 2 Australians on death row at the moment, so that has to be our 2 boys if it's true. It's widely reported. I haven't seen the list and I can't confirm it, but it looks like a reality we have to deal with and face in our efforts at the moment, for sure.
The Australian government will, of course, be continuing its diplomatic efforts behind the scene to save the pair from execution, but there is nothing they can really do to intervene in this case. And this news is likely to filter its way through to Kerobokan jail today to Andrew Chan and Mayuran Sukumaran. They have been receiving all week a steady stream of visitors, family, friends and supporters, seeing them and spending time with them. Yesterday, Andrew Chan got a visit from his mother, who he hasn't seen in many years. They were also visited by their former lawyer, who's now a Victorian Supreme Court judge, Lex Lasry. He wasn't there in any official capacity, but he just wanted to see and spend time with his former clients. We're told the mood inside Kerobokan jail is understandably sad and sombre, but that Andrew Chan and Mayuran Sukumaran are coping as best they can. Family members will be visiting again today to spend as much time as possible with the pair. Everyone involved in this, no doubt aware that the day they've all been dreading is drawing closer.
The family of the Lent Cafe siege victim, Tory Johnson, has heard harrowing details of the moment he was executed at the hands of gunman Man Monas. The details came out at the opening hearing of the coronial inquest. It also heard Katrina Dawson was shot as police fired into the building.
Silence, please, all stand.
One of the rare times cameras have been allowed into the coroner's court, a mark of how the siege touched Sydney and of the important issues this inquest will seek to unravel.
The explosive climax of the siege must have made manifold the grief of the families of the hostages who died. To them I offer my most sincere and deep sympathy. Rarely have such horrifying events unfolded so publicly.
Jeremy Gormley is the lawyer assisting the coroner.
The siege has had ramifications beyond the place and time of its occurrence, and the siege seemed to break its way into the intimacy of Sydney life, daily Sydney life.
Watching it all in court, relatives of Tory Johnson, the cafe manager shot by Man Monas. revealed for the first time the fact that towards the end of the siege, Monas made Tory kneel on the floor of the cafe.
After a short lapse of time, Mr. Monas simply shot him without further notice or warning in the back of the head.
A police marksman witnessed the shooting, called it in, prompting officers to storm the cafe. The deafening sound was largely due to distractors, often known as flashbangs. They are explosives that made 99 sounds of gunfire and flashes of light.
They have the effect of stunning and distracting, but can also sound like there is a hail of bullets being fired from guns.
On top of that, 22 shots were fired by police. Monas was killed instantly by at least 2 bullets to the head. Another 11 hit him in the body. Katrina Dawson couldn't escape the barrage of bullets.
Ms. Dawson was struck by 6 fragments of a police bullet or bullets, which ricocheted from hard surfaces into her body.
1 bullet fragment hit a major blood vessel. Ms. Dawson died shortly afterwards. 82-year-old John O'Brien was the only hostage to attend the hearing.
John, were you a little bit upset by the details that you heard there?
It was upsetting, very upsetting, yeah, for Tory Johnson's family who were sitting in there, and very emotional again. But that's all I'd like to say.
When Man Monas entered the Lint Cafe, he was hiding a sawn-off shotgun. He sat down and calmly ordered a piece of chocolate cake and a cup of tea. A short time later, Monas moved to a table which was close to the back doors, where he had a view of the entire cafe. It was there he spoke to manager Tory Johnson. Staff could tell Tory was stressed by what he was being told. Tory turned to a colleague and said, "I need you to get my keys from the office and lock the doors. We're closed. Everything is okay. Tell the staff to be calm." Soon after, Monas forced Tory Johnson to phone 000 and say, "Australia is under attack by Islamic State. There are bombs in Martin Place, Circular Quay and George Street." That claim turned out to be false.
During the course of the siege, he said he would shoot people for various reasons. For example, that if he did so, he'd be taken seriously.
It might be early days in the investigation, but what we do know is that Monas fired off a total of 5 shots from a sawn-off pump-action shotgun, and that includes the shot that killed Tory Johnson. He also had another 21 shotgun cartridges in his backpack. In the coming months, the inquest will rake over the police action. Could it have been handled better? To help the coroner, UK police with expertise in siege management will give their view of how New South Wales police responded.
And National EMTV News continues with Trukai Sports. That's coming up next, and I'll give you all the details after the break.
Trukai Sports.
After a successful tour of competition, our PNG Samoa beach volleyball men's and women's teams returned yesterday from the Gold Coast in Australia. They competed at the Queensland Open and the Australian Beach Volleyball Tour Round 2. With more exposure to international tournaments, National Coaching Director for Volleyball, Marty Collins, believed they have what it takes to become the #1 beach volleyball country in the Pacific and have success on the Australian and Asian tours.
Competing at the Queensland Open, Hazel Ruga and Daijon placed 5th, while Team Velga Sinari and Alice Ito managed to place 9th. Coaching Director Marty Collins said this was a tremendous result from competing in a star-studded field of 40 teams that included several Olympians and top teams from around Australia and New Zealand. Out of 48 teams that took part, the Samoa men's team of Richard Batari and Moha Mea placed 13th, and the second team of Walter Henao and Harry Amoa placed 17th. Their only losses were against teams of international standard. The second tournament saw a smaller field, but with with a higher standard of opposition. Mr. Collins said the team's win-loss ratio was not as good as in the Queensland Cup, where their losses were hard-fought against teams with Asian Tour and World Tour experience. Over the 2 weeks of training, Team Amoa PNG Beach Volleyball completed 120 matches in addition to their daily training twice a day. PNG Beach Volleyball has gained much respect and supporters in Australia because of the team's style and level of play, with the amount of improvement throughout the tournaments. More opportunities have presented themselves with the Amoa Beach Volleyball squad invited to the Australian Championships, New Zealand Open and the Asian Beach Volleyball Tour. The team is now looking for sponsors to make these opportunities possible. Dion Kombeng, National EMTV Sports.
And in soccer, facing their first hurdle of non-availability of venues to host matches in Port Moresby, the Telecom National Soccer League has swapped round 2 fixtures. This weekend's matches will see the fixtures from round 4 being played. With the aim of creating a family-friendly culture in the league, NSL ensures that matches will be played without disruption. Lay fans will see the season's first doubleheader at the Sir Ignatius Kilaga Stadium.
To accommodate for the unavailability of the IPA Oval for Port Moresby matches, Telecom National Soccer League has swapped round 2 fixtures with round 4 matches. This weekend's matches will see a doubleheader in Lae, with defending champions Hekari United to take on Lae City Dwellers in the first match, followed by the main match between Besta FC and Oro FC. Telecom National Soccer League competition manager Simon Koima is adamant that the competition must continue, and he and his team are working with stakeholders, sponsors, and the franchises to ensure that the games are held every weekend. Embarking on creating a family-friendly culture and environment in the code, matches are expected to be played in a conducive environment without disruption.
Especially at grounds, we will not allow any form of alcohol to be consumed by supporters and spectators alike, or even players bring alcohol into the playing fields. They will not take any harmful or dangerous objects into the field as well, where it could be used against a player or a supporter or family.
The season opener in Lae saw FC Port Moresby and Lae City Dwellers lock horns on a draw and put the first points on the board. Leiwarden Oval in Madang will see the return of NSL in the province when Madang FC take on Admiralty. Scholar Sengi, National EMTV Sports.
And we'll bring you the latest on the Asian Cup and the Australian Open after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Turning overseas now, goal-scoring hero Tim Cahill says the current Socceroos team is transforming Australian football. Just 2 days from the Asian Cup final against South Korea, Cahill believes the side is better placed than ever before to win its first major title.
He's the figure that's towered over Australia's Asian Cup campaign, and Tim Cahill has promised he's saved his best for last.
I play for these moments, and I play to try and make a difference in Australian football.
A chance to win silverware on home soil, one of the highlights of Cahill's illustrious career.
Not only are we making a difference on the pitch, it's the impact that we're making off the pitch. So for me, this is definitely up there with the best.
Cahill played in Australia's only other Asian Cup final, a 1-0 loss to Japan 4 years ago. The striker says the Socceroos squad is far better prepared this time around.
It definitely has to be the best that I've ever been a part of. The football's great, the setup's great, but the professionalism's on a whole different level.
Cahill puts that down to Aussie coach Ange Postecoglou.
When you actually find someone that loves the game and's passionate about the game and is Australian, it's all well and good when you can bring someone in for a couple of years and then he leaves and he goes and be the national team manager of another country. But when you're not Australian, you don't understand what it means to play for your country or what it means to wear the badge.
Cahill is the Socceroos' all-time top scorer and an icon to Australian football fans. But that doesn't mean he gets any special treatment in camp.
He's just like a big kid. He's like one of us young guys, you know. He's always on the Nintendo DS or playing FIFA with the boys, you know, screaming the hotel walls down.
As for his future with the Socceroos beyond Saturday night,
I'm not sure, but that's something I'll talk about after.
Over to tennis. The first of the men's finalists for the Australian Open will be decided tonight. The women's decider will be a battle of the top two seeds after Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova breezed through their semi-finals today.
Madison Keys showing no sign of nerves as she pushed the first set to a tiebreak where Serena Williams produced some bombs of her own.
Wow, 200 kilometres an hour.
The second appeared more straightforward, the world number one sprinting to a 5-1 lead, but Keys kept on swinging. Serena watching on as 8 match points slipped by before finally clinching an emotion-charged victory. Even more meaningful given she continues to struggle with illness.
I'm definitely feeling a lot better. Every day gets better, so I have a day off tomorrow, and hopefully by Saturday I'll be all recuperated.
She'll need to be against Maria Sharapova, the Russian in ominous form against countrywoman Ekaterina Makarova.
Just have a look at the emotion.
Many great memories on Rod Laver Arena, and I've hopefully set myself up for another good one.
And after setting up a rematch of last year's epic semi-final, Novak Djokovic was quick to turn up the heat on Stan Wawrinka.
Being a defending champion, obviously he's got some of the pressure here.
The pair go head-to-head tomorrow night.
Australian cricketers say a win in the Tri-Series final in Perth will be the perfect springboard into the World Cup. The Aussies still don't know their opponents for Sunday's match that will be decided when England and India meet tomorrow.
Everything Australia's cricketers do at the moment is with an eye to the World Cup. Sunday's Tri-Series final, another chance for players to press their case for spots in the top 11.
We've got some great young quicks here, and with Mitch to lead, and got Starkey and Cummins as well, so there's great competition for spots at the moment. And
after a brilliant Test debut against India, Hazelwood is ready to cement his place in all forms of the game.
I think it's just getting that continuous cricket that I haven't had in the past few years, just to get that game after game and just keep playing all the time, and getting that confidence in your body to keep performing.
Brett Lee arrived in Sydney this morning, officially an ex-cricketer. He went out with a bang in the Big Bash final. With scores level and 3 balls remaining, Lee just about pulled off a miracle for the Sixers. The fairy tale didn't come true. But Lee gave everything he had right to the end.
I reckon I've tweaked my hammy, so if we did go to a super over, I'm not sure if I would have been able to bowl it. I would have found some way to run him, but it's pretty sore this morning.
And that does it for True Kai Sports tonight. Coming up next, the weather details.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather information is brought to you by Tablebirds.
A quick look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the Highlands region, all centres evening brief showers, then morning fog. Well, that's been National EMTV News tonight. On behalf of the news crew, I'm Tokana Hasavi. You take care and stay safe. Good night.